So it is phenomenal customer service that we're after. It's about going home and feeling good about the job that you did. And so when you get curious about what's going on inside the customer's home, and you provide options based on that curiosity, and you simply get them to yes or no. Did I say anything about selling? Nope. I simply said, get curious, provide options, and get to yes or no. Don't assume what the customer wants, okay? Because even though you are a customer, you are not your customer. Just give them all the options. Let them decide which one they want. Get them to yes or no, and that's it. That's your job. That's what a good job looks like.
Welcome to the Waste No Day podcast, a podcast specifically for and about the home services industry as it relates to plumbing, heating, air conditioning, and electrical. More than a podcast, Waste No Day is a credo, a determination, a mindset. It is a never-ending discipline. It is a refuse to lose pursuit. It is a wake-up call every morning to waste no day. Now here's your hosts, Brian Burton and Nate Minnick.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Waste No Day podcast. Your host, Nate and Brian, hanging out with you again and looking forward to a great show today, talking about some sales and specifically sales over the phone with Mr. Brigham Dickinson. That's right. The president of Power Selling Pros is joining us, and we're going to have a great conversation about memberships and selling over the phone and selling in the house as well. And we're looking forward to doing that today. Before we do, though, it's time to spend a little time breaking down some ideas for you ourselves. And we're going to start off with a quote from Brian.
While you were wondering if you should act, the world has already changed. Friedrich Nietzsche.
Okay. All right. Going with the deep philosophers to start us off on a Monday.
Yeah. Not too deep of a philosophy, but a very deep philosopher. I always struggle with his name, Nietzsche. But
I thought it was Nietzsche.
No, I think the actual pronunciation is Nietzsche. Like just letting it stop. I don't think you actually pronounce E at the end, but yeah.
What do I know? I'm from Central Pennsylvania. We say weird things out here. So
yeah, but you should have a pretty good leg up on the rest of the country in that area.
The German side.
Yeah, there's a lot of German going on out there.
Yeah, well, spring of the English, I do not know Pennsylvania Dutch or German for that matter, high or low. So
struggle with Pig Latin from what I remember.
Oh, well, that's a great way to start us off here, Brian. And we're looking forward to a good show. Regardless of where you're at, we're going to be talking about bringing membership sales into your presentation, whether that's over the phone, CSR, or maybe you're doing follow-ups or callbacks, or in the home. We're going to be talking about how memberships can make a difference for you and the homeowner.
Yeah. And while we're on the topic of the quote and memberships, while you were deciding whether to act or thinking or wondering if you should act, the world has already changed in our industries or industry in the home services. For me, the world in that quote is our competitors. And maybe not like our local competitors, but just other people like us, other teams like us in the industry, wherever you're at. Dispatcher, CSR, part runner, apprentice, tech, salesperson, manager, owner, everything in between. There's a step you should take. There's a thing that you should try or do. We'll say try. Like, why not? Because when we're going at a video game, it's like, yeah, I'll try my hand at this thing. And then we get whatever it is that makes us stick with that video game. We get into it. Like we just see a glimmer of hope that I could be good at this, We don't start out good at it, but so many things in our career, if we're not good at it when we start out, this is the thing I've gotten the most of over the years with the very anti-role playing people. Look, I'm fine to just, do it with my client. I'm fine to memorize it. I can go in your office and do it. Just, I can't role play in front of a group. That's not me. And I'm like, I know it wasn't me either in the beginning. Like, even to stand up and give these meetings that I gave for my mentor for a short period of time he just said, I want to start having you do a morning meeting a week. Like the amount, and this was probably only like a year and a half into me being there, but the amount of time out of work that I put into reading books, There weren't that many audiobooks. I actually had to do a lot of reading and writing notes in them, scratching stuff down and role playing with myself and memorizing things. And I had these books like Quote Book and all these notebooks that I was filling up. The amount of work that I did just set me apart in terms of knowledge, even though there are people that have been there for many years and I'm only there for a year and a half, to where the GM said, I'd like you to start giving meetings for the plumbing and HVAC team. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll kill this. So my mother-in-law had a printer and I would make little true and false, I think they were all true and false quizzes for the end of my Thursday morning training or whatever it was. And I got Lance to give me something. I don't remember what it was, but if anyone got perfect scores, they got something. So I just gave a lesson and then I handed out a quiz and then we took the quiz and that was it. Well, my hands shook. My stomach was in knots and felt sick for a few minutes before I knew these guys. I'd worked with them for a long time. Get me up there to role play. That's behind me now. I had conquered that. I'll get up there and role play and I'm trying to be the best in the room. Usually was. Sorry, losers, number twos, all the rest of you guys. But get me up there to now teach a lesson to the same team. And my palms were drenched and I was just a train wreck. I was a mess. But I mean, as this airs, it's, I don't know, a couple months ago, but a few weeks ago, we did our first ever Waste No Day boot camp.
Yeah,
and
buddy.
I got up in front of 60 something people in a room, most of whom I had never met before. And I mean, like 95% I had never met before.
Oh, time out, Brian. You really got to work on your marketing here. You got up in front of a packed house.
Sorry, a packed house.
Capacity.
You know, when I say is packed, there was a sign right next to my head where I was training the entire time at the Wild Horse Pass that said capacity 40, max capacity 40. Well, Tommy Mello decided he was going to send 10 of his guys last minute. So we were already at 50. And then we had to make room for 10 more A1 techs. But no problem, man. I mean, I was nervous going in, of course, but just got it done. I wasn't shaking. I got an awesome, very prolonged standing applause when I ended it. Almost kind of I gotta get out of this room. I want to jump out a window. If you guys don't stop, I can't take gratitude in person. It's like almost a sick aversion to it. And it went very well. The nerves were out like the second I started speaking and it went very well. But if you could just go back 20 years or however many years it was when I started doing that, that's what you saw. It was an absolute mess. So bad that 2 techs, I'm thinking from the HVAC side, went to Lance and said, this is the worst meeting of the week. Do we have to sit through Brian's training? Seriously. And that he and I decided that I shouldn't do it anymore. And it was probably, if I'm being honest, me. It was probably me. And Lance was probably saying, you need to practice more before you get there. You need to do it more on Wednesday night. And I was going like, they're right, bro. They're not getting anything out of this. And really, I just didn't want to have to force myself through it anymore. And that was a mistake. I know better now. That no different than the video game. All I had to do was play it a little bit more and I was going to get good. Learn to read the room, learn to take them on an emotional ride. The biggest thing is what's going to keep me engaged, what's going to make me enjoy it while still every meeting, the goal is to make sure that when someone leaves that room and knocks on a door, they're better equipped to sell than they were the day before. But I didn't have all those principles jotted down at the time. I was just like, I do now because I've been running meetings for almost a dozen years. But it's just the video game. All these things are just the video game. You get killed, you never play again, or you pick up sticks and go. You pick up the remote and you go again. And the role plays the same way. So even in that, the world's already changing. All the people around you, your competitors or your comrades are already changing. And you're sitting there wondering if you should do it. And if it really is that difficult to role play in front, no, I don't. You're fine. Just knock it off. I'm not excusing that behavior. You just do it like everybody else does until you get good at it.
Well, I think in some ways, Brian, like there's a number of reasons why, but one that comes to mind is a disbelief that I can. Yeah, and being perfectly frank, like I was never a morning person, and There was a time in my life when I would sleep through 4 alarms and be able to barely drag myself up. And now I work out at 5 a.m. several times a week. And like, you asked me a couple years ago and I would have said, that's impossible. Like, that will never be me. I could never do that. And now it's just a thing. Like, it's just a thing that I do. And there's a massive hurdle in a lot of people's minds that it's just a bridge too far or something too high or a disbelief that I could ever be anything different than I currently am. And I mean, straight up, that's just a lie. It is a lie that perhaps you've told to you or previous people or recordings in your head or the devil himself. Somebody is lying to you that you could never be different. You could never be anything but what you are right now. And the most obvious way to dispel that lie is by looking back and finding any point of progress that you have made in your life at all. And then asking yourself, was there a point in my life where I ever thought I could be where I am now? And if the answer is no, well, then you've already dispelled that lie. You've already broken the mold and you've created progress in your life. So why not one step farther? There is no limit. You can do things. You can wake up earlier. You can get better at your craft. You can become a better speaker. You can become a better husband, a better father. You can become a better son. All these types of things. You can do it. And you need to work at dispelling the lies that you're telling yourselves and start whispering something else into your own ears.
Yeah, the other piece of proof that you can do it is look around at the idiots you know who have done it. Seriously. Look around at the people that you go, there's no way he or she should be beating me. I got to catch up quick. And then just catch up. Go ahead and catch up.
Yeah, you really think the world is that much better?
Nope. Sure don't. I mean, you just look at the work ethic around you in most cases. There's not a whole lot of it. Like David Goggins always says, you don't have to try that much harder to be excellent in this day and age. You just got to put a little bit of extra in.
Yeah.
It goes back to Zig Ziglar. There's never a traffic jam on the extra mile.
Oh, that's good. Well, speaking of people who've gone the extra mile, Brian, it's that time of the show where we take a moment to highlight somebody who has put in the extra effort and given us a review and some love on the old 5-star podcast board. And who are we highlighting today?
Several episodes ago, this isn't the reviewer talking, this is me. This is just Brian.
Thanks. I was confused about the voice there.
All right, good. Several episodes ago, I told you that somebody left us a 4-star review.
Oh, is this the one?
But also said, is this good enough to get my review read, sped to the front of the line? Which I thought was funny because it was obvious by the review that he or she, I don't think there was a name. Like, there's a lot of women that review the show. Yeah. Let's go with he. I'm going to do some quick math here. We got our Spotify breakdown in for the record. 89.9% of Spotify listeners to Waste No Day, men. 4% are non-binary. Which I assume is just
questionable about this.
So you're officially 4% of our audience now. Did you know that?
Let's do that math. Okay. Dozens and dozens and dozens of listeners.
I couldn't believe it. Like, really? Our Waste No Day audience is not binary. I would not have seen that coming at all. So I don't know. A few months ago, we read a regular review. I also read a little bit of this one. And I said, not with a 4-star review. This review will never get read. Because, again, we're not looking for constructive criticism. We don't care. We don't care. But check this out. Top sales pros only. 5 stars. That's right. 5. Corrected to 5 stars. I've been in the sales industry for a long time and have sold many different products and solutions. I have found that nothing outside of the trades can give me the opportunity to provide at the level I currently do. Brian and Nate have been key in mentoring me from a podcast in how I can improve my mindset and skill every single day. Find someone who has gone where you want to go, who has achieved what you want to achieve, and copy that success. These are those guys, And with an endless supply of amazing guests, you're guaranteed to learn all you need to be successful. It's good to have them in your passenger seat, but I'd suggest to be in a place where you can write down and retain what you are being given. Highest quality training. P.S. Was that good enough to get this review read on the next episode? You're gosh darn right it was. Auzyave.
Whoa, brutal in the name though, huh?
Aussie Ave? AU. I don't know. I have no idea.
We do have some Australian listeners, maybe.
Yeah, but that's usually AUSSIE, not AUZY. So I have no idea. Hey, find me on social. Let me know what your name is. And I'll probably forget to ever do anything with it. But I will try to remember to throw it on a future episode. But yeah, it was awesome. He got his stuff moved all the way up from, I probably skipped like 3, 4, 5 months of reviews to do that. Yeah. Sorry, everybody who's waiting to hear the review read.
Oh, that's a very nice review. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. That was a good one. Detailed and just long, and actually got the star number corrected, thankfully. I've done it before. So I've actually, like, you just go to hit it real quick on a phone and you can very easily press the wrong button.
You think it was a mistake?
Like, no, I don't. No. He's like, bro, it's a struggle to give you guys 4. Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, they're not going to read it? Fine, I'll throw a 5 on there. What do I care?
If they're shorter intros, maybe, but no.
Yeah, that's probably what really happened.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. Random batch of letters. Thank you very much for the review. And we sure appreciate it if you like what you're hearing on the episodes week in and week out, if you would do the same. Thank you very much for that in advance. It's time now to switch over to our guest, and we're going to put Mr. Brigham Dickinson in your passenger seat. Our guest today is Brigham Dickinson. He is the president of Power Selling Pros and the founder of the Power Certification Program, a call handling training program that holds teams accountable to booking calls and creating wow experiences over the phone. Brigham started Power Selling Pros in 2009 when he saw that call handlers needed assistance to consistently convert calls to bookings. As a result, Dickinson answered the need and created the Power Certification Program to effect change in his industry's call centers in the United States, Canada, and Australia. The purpose of the Power Certification Program is to partner with contractors and certify their CSRs to deliver a world-class customer experience. The program guarantees that contractor call handling teams will book at least 85% of their calls and wow more customers. Dickinson's company holds teams accountable with a combination of online training, call monitoring, regular one-on-one phone-based coaching, and in-person training, all supported by a vast library of pre-recorded calls that showcase best practices. With that in mind, we are super excited and happy to welcome Mr. Brigham to the show. Brigham, we're excited to have you here. I know you know Brian and you have a relationship there. I'll let you guys explain that in a minute. But we're looking forward to having a conversation about sales, which of course is a passion of ours on the show. And I understand that you have a background in selling, and not only selling, but in training sales, not only to technicians, but also CSRs. So look forward to have a great dynamic conversation today. Brian, why don't you explain your relationship with Brigham?
So Brigham and I was fortunate to meet Brigham at the Clover Mastermind, right?
That's right. That's right.
And then we just kind of met then at Tommy's Freedom event and then at Pantheon too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So over the course of 3 weeks, we were in 3 different states together. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, this guy.
Hashtag fanboy. All right. We get it.
Stalker.
Oh, that's great. And we like to start off the show, if you've listened, since obviously you've wanted to get on the show, clearly you listened to all the episodes, but we like to have our guests kind of give an introduction on, like, what's your story? So do you have a background in the trades? If not, what is your relationship with the trades now? How does that all interact? And, just give a little bit of context.
Well, before you do.
Not you, yes, Brian. This is for Brigham. You literally tell it to us every single episode.
Yeah, so I met Brigham at the Clover Mastermind with Josh and Laura Kelly and the squad of amazing people we got to hang out with for several days in New Orleans. And we first met on the river cruise, I believe.
That's right.
Yeah, and chatted for like 10 minutes. And both of us were like, dude, we got to get you on it's got to happen. We got to get you on Waste No Day. And I had heard him, I think, on Tommy's podcast before. Mm-hmm. And Nate and I had actually talked about it. So that was a killer episode. And much like we do, we got to get him on Waste No Day. 7 months goes by and we never had another conversation about it because that's how we roll. And then when I saw you there and we got to chatting, and then next morning, of course, you show up in the gym and I'm like, oh, yeah, it's my people. What's up? With Michael Vanitas and Catherine Howard all showed up, and Amelia Burton all showed up in the gym together. So that was fun. And then, and we chatted about it several times since then. And then this was the day that made the most sense. So I'm excited to have you on. I'm excited because while we've only really done 3 episodes about club memberships, other than just straight up technician objections, club memberships is what we get asked about the most. How do I sell club memberships? How do I train to sell club memberships? And how do I get my CSRs converting at a higher level? It's probably 2 of the biggest things I get asked about other than just straight up selling in the home.
How to get my CSRs selling more club memberships?
And converting the calls higher on the phone. And I'm like, this is your world. So
yeah, we can definitely cover that. All right. So how did I get started in this industry?
Let's hear it.
Right after my mission, I served a mission in Brazil from 95 to 97. Right after that, I started selling cinnamon roasted almonds in a mall for Christmas. So I was selling nuts. In fact, they called the company Totally Nuts. I thought it was really catchy. But I was there giving out free samples, and there's this guy named Jim Ackerman that came up and grabbed a sample, and I sold him on like a pound of cinnamon roasted almonds. And he said, hey, I like your sales pitch. Why don't you come to one of my seminars? And I thought for sure it was going to be one of those Amway, getting my downline type of deals. And it wasn't. It was actually a marketing company that helped contractors with all their marketing endeavors. So I started doing that. And within about a year, I had several heating and cooling companies that I was coaching, working with on all their marketing endeavors. And there was one in particular. His name is Royal Hockley. He owned Arctic Air. Well, actually, he ran Arctic Air. He had just sold it to Service Experts. You guys remember Service Experts, right?
Sure.
Way back when. And so that's why I was introduced to the industry, is through Jim Ackerman. But Royal called Jim and asked if he could offer me a job. And sure enough, he offered me a job. And I moved my family from Utah to California in a U-Haul. And I started answering the phones for Royal at Arctic Air. Did that for a couple of years. And Kevin Comerford, the owner of Service Champions North in California, gave me a call and he said, hey, I hear you're answering phones for Royal. And I said, yep. And because Kevin Comerford was the district manager there, he said, well, I'm going to come over and let's just have a conversation. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought for sure it was because he wanted to see what I was doing from a marketing standpoint for Royal. But nope, that wasn't it at all. He wanted to see how I answered phones. So he sat me down in the lunchroom there at Arctic Air, and he started practicing with me how to answer phones. And he was really keen on using a different voice every time we practiced. And I thought that was interesting. And he did it for just drilling one over and over and over and over again. And finally, he left. I didn't get a chance to talk about my marketing ideas at all. I was really frustrated about that. So he goes to the doorway and he says, hey, I'm going to call you every other week. And I don't care if you recognize my voice or not. I need you to continue through to the end of the call like we've just practiced. And sure enough, for the next 6 months, he's calling as if he's some sort of cowboy or an old lady. And it's funny, too, because he'd always say at the end, okay, so this is Kevin. And I'd always act surprised. Oh, my gosh, I had no idea it was Kevin. And he and I were just going back and forth, and he just kept practicing with me. Now, I never thought twice about it after that experience. I mean, I left Service Experts there soon thereafter. I had several heating and cooling companies I was doing marketing for, and then merged my company into a software company that professed to be able to do a manual J in 4 minutes or less. This is back in 2008. And I didn't realize it was not an accurate manual J. and so that didn't work out too well. The business failed and I was broke. And I can remember driving towards work, and I couldn't even pull into work. I was so depressed about it. So I just kept on riding throughout to the edge of the city, and there's a Barnes & Noble at the edge of the city. And I walked into the Barnes & Noble and I beelined it to the self-help section and the sales section. And the first book that I grabbed was Jeff Gitomer's book, Sales Bible. I don't know if you guys have read it, but it's a phenomenal sales book. Grab the book, grab the CDs. For those who are a bit younger, a CD is a thing that you actually put in your car, you push play, and it actually plays music. That's what we did back then. inside the car. And so I was listening to this CD, and there's one part where Jeff Gitomer says, and if you think this is really hokey, and it's most of these books, these sales books, they come across as very, very hokey. I'm sure you've listened to them before. Jim Rohn is very hokey, but he's a phenomenal salesperson, right? Zig Ziglar, super hokey, but he's just good at motivating you. So I remember one time where Jeff said, and if you think this is too hokey, give this CD to somebody else and watch them get rich and happy. And I was like, okay, I better keep playing. So I kept playing. I didn't want to see anybody else get rich and happy if I couldn't do it. And so I just push and play over and over again, listen to this guy. And soon I just started getting my own ideas about what I could do. And I drew the first version of this thing here called the Pattern for Excellence. Pattern for Excellence is a foundation tool that we use in all of our training endeavors. And so I had a client that I was working with. I was trying to get back into marketing, and I was doing some digital advertising for him, some pay-per-click and SEO. And the name of the company, Troy Nearing's Plumbing and Heating. He brought me in and he said, hey, your leads are no good. This is back around 2008. So you can imagine the type of leads we were getting. They want a ballpark price. They want to know what you charge to come out. They want to talk to a technician, those types of things. And so Troy said that they didn't know how to book these types of calls. I said, well, look, don't fire me. You should be training your CSRs to book these calls, not turn off the advertising. And he says, what do you have in mind? And I pulled out the first version of this. Now, the first version of this, you guys, was drawn with a pencil. So imagine a circle with some words in it, drawn by pencil. He looked at it and he's like, okay, what do you want to do with that? And I said, let me train them. I'll train them how to book these calls while these customers. And within a month, sure enough, he had his call conversions up by 20%. And then he referred me to his buddy in Boulder, Colorado, Tom Robichaud with Precision Plumbing and Heating. And Tom calls me up and he says, hey, I hear you're training Troy's team. I said, yep, I sure am. I'm also doing his advertising. He says, well, I've got that covered, but I'll pay you to train my CSRs. And I was like, oh, I could actually make money training CSRs as opposed to just selling advertising. So sure enough, he flew me over to Boulder, trained his team, and his call conversions went up as well. Then Troy and Tom got together and they said, hey, let's help Brigham out. Let's help him grow his business. And they referred me to Mike Gugliero of Gold Medal in East Brunswick, New Jersey. And Mike said, hey, if you do a good job, I'm going to tell everybody about you. And sure enough, that's exactly what he did. And he started referring me to a lot of different heating and cooling companies. And then I started hiring my friends. And you guys, you know, I don't have a lot of friends that are all working with me. Paid relationships, right? We've been working together ever since. Barry Gates and myself, my little brother, Nathan Dickinson, they started with me from the beginning and they're still working with me to this day. And we went from training 6 CSRs to well over 1,142 now, 1,142 trainees in our coaching program. And we coach them one-on-one twice a month using their own phone calls. So we've been doing it for the last 15 years.
That's amazing. And so like from there, the rest is kind of history, as they say, or as Paul Harvey used to say, the rest of the story, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so where does that place you now?
With Power Selling Pros?
Yes.
Well, we've got a training team. About 3 years ago, we had clients say, hey, you know, you guys are really good at teaching CSRs to book calls. Why don't you just book them for us? So we finally decided, okay, let's do it. And so we started developing our own call center. And now we have our own call center. It's called Booked by PSP. And we go ahead and we answer phones for contractors. We're probably the only overflow nights and weekends answering service that books 93% of their phone calls and actively sells service agreements over the phone. And we've got 65 people in that group. So
that's amazing.
Yeah. And then since then, I think in 2022, I started doing ride-alongs with techs. And I can tell you later on the things that we do with technicians, but it's mostly soft skills, ride-alongs and so on and so forth.
So the summary there is, as far as Power Selling Pros goes, I mean, obviously you're doing the call taking thing, you're actually answering phones, but a large portion of the business is developing call centers or call takers throughout the industry, which, speaking from personal experience, is incredibly difficult, not only to find people who are willing to do the job, retain them to actually learn the training, and then develop them into somebody who is capable of booking in the 90 percentile. For the technicians in the field, I mean, this just seems like such a no-brainer. Like, well, why wouldn't you be able to take a call when somebody is, you know, has a plumbing issue or whatever? But like, it is fairly complex. There's a lot of finesse to it. And I don't know what the industry standard is, but it's not 93%. I'll tell you that. It's certainly not 93% after hours. That's an absolute monster of a number. And that's coming from my location. We actually have our own call center. We're pretty proud of it as well. And I can speak from experience that 93% after hours is beastly. So you guys are doing something right there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Nathan. When I started doing ride-alongs with techs in 2022, my second call, I was one of 5 bids. I was super frustrated because whose job is it to make sure I'm the only one going out? It's the CSR's job. So booking the call should be a given. CSRs should book 100% of their phone calls. Now, as a side note, Nathan, according to Service Titan, the industry average is 42% calls versus set appointments. That's horrendous.
Yeah.
Most companies that realize they need training are hovering around 60%. Okay, and we can do math on that in just a second. But basically what I was working with this company here in Utah. It was a plumbing company. And I said, look, I'm not going out on another call until your CSRs are being held accountable to perform at extremely high level. I want them to book the call. I want them to wow the customer. And I want to make sure that they do everything possible to ensure that I'm the only one going out. As soon as we got that figured out and they started training their CSRs, I probably did 100 ride-alongs over a 90-day period. And they went from selling $500,000 in gross revenue a month to $700,000 in gross revenue a month just through soft skills. And I'll tell you in a minute how we went in and did that. But a key part to that was making sure I was the only one going out. I want the customer to feel safe, comfortable, have a little bit of fun. If you can do that over the phone, it's going to be a whole lot easier for them to say, you know what? This is the company I want to work with. People don't get 5 bids for fun. They get 5 bids because they feel like they have to. But if they feel understood, if they feel cared about, if they feel reassured that they've called the right place, when they call you, guess what? Now you're 911. There's no 912. Help is on the way. That's our goal, is to get to the point where they realize this is the company I want to work with. This is the easy button. You've got to do that over the phone. So yeah, your CSRs need to be trained. It does take a special skill. And I often ask business owners, I say, hey, how much time do you spend training your techs? And most of them are like, oh, every day. Every day. Awesome. And how much time do you spend with your CSRs?
My what?
Exactly. Crickets. And you know what? It's because they don't have time. It's a lot easier to train techs because most of them were a tech, right? They once were a tech. It's easy to relate with them. It's easy to work with them on a regular basis. They've been interacting with them their entire lives. So it's easier to train the techs. CSRs don't get the attention because we just, as business owners, most of us can't relate.
Well, and I think there's an emphasis on revenue production, right? So you look at the technicians, and obviously you could have a background in the trade or whatever, but you look at the technicians to say, well, if I send Brian out to this call, he's going to get me $1,000 on average. Well, Brian ain't going out to that call if Brigham doesn't schedule the call to begin with. And that, you say it's a given. Unfortunately, in our industry at 42%, it's not. It's not a given at all. Not to mention it even be a pleasurable experience, which a lot of times homeowners are calling in frustrated, not necessarily at you or at whatever. They're frustrated at the scenario. They're frustrated because they didn't really desire to need our services today. And so there's an element of empathy. There's an element of, compassion and concern that you have to train. And of course, as we've spoken about on this podcast before, in terms of the 3 elements of communication: body language, tonality, and words. The CSRs only get 2 of those, and they're the smallest of the 3. Whereas technicians, you guys in the field, like, you get to use your body language, you get to wave your hands, you get to, as Brian would say, raise the eyebrows, nod your head, smile a little bit, right? You get to do all those things. CSR can do that. And while you can technically hear a smile when somebody is doing that over the phone, it's a lot more challenging to do that. And so you're relying upon far less in the communication channels than most people are. And you have to still come across as empathetic and concerned and let me help you out. Let's get this scheduled and take all the details and answer all the questions and deal with the technician who's frustrated that you didn't ask the right question and all this stuff. So our perspective of the CSR is that the CSR is really the hub of the company. They liaison with the customer. They work with the technicians. They work with the service managers. They work with the dispatchers. They work with the ops managers. They work with HR, like whoever. They work with the admin team. They're funneling all these calls and moving them all around. And it's so critical that is the first touch, the first point of contact that a customer will ever have with your company in a real human being, outside of watching a commercial or hearing a radio ad or clicking on a link, which is all just superficial. It's pre-recorded, all those types of things. The CSR is their first experience. And you know what they say about that? You can never have a second chance at a first experience. So you have a bad experience on the phone, it's a no-go. Like, I don't care if Brian's average ticket is $10,000 and he closes at 79%. It's not happening because I'm not moving forward because the CSR didn't make me want to move forward. So let's dive into it here a little bit, Brigham. I don't know how much of the wheel you want to talk about there. Maybe kind of give us some highlights or a summarized version. But when you talk about the concept of like where to start with developing great call taking skills, you said soft skills, talk about all those things. And you think about the impact of what a 42% average booking ratio means. What that means is if you spend $1,000 on advertising and it gives you, I don't know, let's just say it gives you 10 calls because it's expensive right now. It gives you 10 calls. Only 4 of those calls on average are going to be hitting the board. And that's not counting cancellations, which could occur after the fact. So you end up spending a ton of money to only get 4 calls, scheduled. So the impact of what the CSR is doing. So walk us through some of the key components about how you even train the importance to the CSR themselves so they know and believe in what the value of what they're doing.
But before you do, this is something that was explained well to me, and this was forced into my somewhat empty head before I got out of a truck by Lance, my old mentor. But if it hadn't been, when a manager would stand in front of the room or an owner and talk about how conversion rate and how much he paid for marketing, it was just in one ear and out the other, because it's difficult for a tech in a truck to care about this kind of thing because I'm not writing the check. But if Nate and I were to go out and start Brian and Nate's Plumbing, obvious name.
It's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah. Tomorrow morning, probably the most effective way to make sure we had a schedule full of calls, say we want 3 calls a day or maybe 3 calls a day each, so we want 6 calls, is to go on Google and pay just an extreme amount of money to Google to make sure that our name pops up when somebody searches for a plumber. And they might click on that link and immediately we might pay, say, $40 or $50 just for them clicking on the link, even if they don't call us. So they might click on 5 links, choose the company they like the most based on the website, and then they call that company. So we've paid that $40 regardless. Now, let's say if 6 people click on that link, maybe one of them actually calls through. So how much have we paid for that call? Right? So that's, say it's $240 now. That's your cost per call, right? So say it's $240. And then 5 people call, right? So you're at $1,200 for 5 people to call in. Imagine your CSR is only booking 40%. 2 of those people, we actually go to their house for $1,040 in marketing. Now, Nate and I have to write that check. We have to give that money to Google immediately. No question about it, or they'll just shut our website down. So this is real money being spent. Now, if you work for a company with 30 trucks, it's just that much more money that's being spent. Make no mistake, that money is getting spent. And the dollars might be different depending on what area you're in, but the dollars get spent. So yes, if a CSR like Brigham is talking about is closing at 90, what'd you say, 94%?
93.
93%. That is a win, a massive win. But imagine now we get to those calls and we only have a 40% conversion rate. So it really does. Every step of the journey is so important and so crucial. So every single step. Even if you go in there and you get, however you do it, your smallest level 1 is just so much better than a 0 because you at least paid for that call. But again, conversion rate in the home is always secondary to me to ticket average. I'm sorry for the trainers out there who go the other way. If you want to debate it, just call me. We'll talk it out. But that ticket average means so much more to me than conversion rate because all your zeros go into that ticket average too at the end of the day. So sorry to throw that in there, but until it was really explained to me that way, it didn't make sense to me. I just didn't care. And I want technicians to kind of take it on themselves to always remember you're in, if John Smith is listening to this, you were in your truck in your imaginations to say John Smith LLC, because that is the truck that you're riding in, even if you're working for a company. And you need to take every lead so seriously. And we have a lot of CSRs, dispatchers that listen. Every single person that calls in needs to be treated like a $240 bill at the end of the day, because that's what they are. And if you don't get them on the schedule, and we don't see that as at least an opportunity for a salesperson or a technician to get out there, just got to imagine yourself writing a $240,000 check, walking over to the half bath and flushing it down the toilet. Because that's literally what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you saying that. Do CSRs and dispatchers play a role in how technicians, the level of income that you receive? Does the technician, how much of a role does a CSR or dispatcher play in the technician's paycheck? The answer should be tremendous. Because if I decide to send you to this person instead of that person, and whoever goes to that person makes, they sell a $10,000 job as opposed to a $500 service call, guess what? That's going to affect your income. CSRs, dispatchers never get the attention that they should get. But if you were to bring in an apple to your CSRs or dispatchers a day, and I'm saying this metaphorically, not necessarily an apple, but maybe their favorite energy drink or what have you, trust me, that'll affect your pocketbook, right? They'll take care of you if you take care of them. Just remember that. Okay, so let me digress and go back to these. I'm glad we're playing with numbers. Let's play with numbers just a little bit longer. Okay, let's say that you get 30 phone calls a day. Which one of you is going to be the best at math on this call?
Nate graduated from high school. So one of us graduated high school, and that would be the other side of your screen.
Go ahead and pull out your calculator. Okay, it's going to be very simple.
I was just thinking, like, as a side note here, you had said Brian and Nate's plumbing. I think actually Burton and Minnick plumbing would be more effective, and then we could shorten it to just BM plumbing.
Very good. It's interesting that they were thinking about that ever since.
Yes.
You're an integrator. You get things done, I can tell.
Right. and that BM is just a fit for what we're going to be doing.
So let's say you take 30, a CSR takes 30 calls a day. Right? It's pretty reasonable. It's conservative, because if a CSR is on this call or on the podcast, they're going to say, I take 60 calls a day. Cool. You're amazing. Let's say it's 30. Okay. Let's say out of that 30 calls, you book 60% of your calls. Now, the reason why I say 60 is because chances are everybody on this podcast is a little bit better than average. If they're investing the time to listen to podcasts like this, chances are they're better than average. So let's just say 60. Okay. Now let's say that your average ticket is $500. Right? I realize that on a replacement call, it's going to be a whole lot more than that. Okay. But on a service call, it may be less. So let's just say it's $500 for the sake of simple math. Okay. So 30 calls, if you book 60% of those, how many calls did you book?
18.
That's right. So 18 times 500, which is your average ticket, is
9,000.
what? Okay. So $9,000 a day. That's per CSR. Okay. Now there's 5 days in a week. You may work more than 5 days a week. Let's just say there's 5 working days in a week. We take that $9,000, we times by 5, and we get
45,000.
So 45,000. Now, let's say that we only work 50 weeks out of the year, not 52. We're not going to work all the time. So let's just say 50 times that last number. Was it 48 or something? 48,000.
Yep. 2.25 million.
Okay. So just over $2 million. See, this is the strength and weakness of our industry. The strength of our industry is you can make money with average numbers. And that's amazing. That's incredible. But it also is a crutch to us, because we could do a whole lot better, but we don't, because in our minds, it's good enough. Don't do that. Don't build a business just for you. Don't build a business just for your lifestyle. Build a business that other people will want so that you have options, right? You can keep that business, or you can exit that business. But either way, you have the options. Build a business so you have options. And the way that you do that is you take a look at every department and you figure out how you can perfect that. Now, let's do the same math real quick and say you're booking at 85% calls versus set appointments.
I did 90% because you said you were at 93. That's 3.375 million.
Yes. I love it. Nate knew exactly what I was going to do, and he jumped ahead. So now you guys, that's per CSR. An extra $1 million per CSR. That's incredible. Okay. So when a CSR books 90% of their calls as opposed to 60%, you can make an extra $1 million per CSR. So it is absolutely worth your time to do it. All right. So how do we increase it? You know what? I'm going to give you a tool right now to increase your call conversion to at least 70, 75%. Are you ready? You guys ready? Hopefully
Let's
you
hear it,
two are
man.
ready.
Let's hear it.
Okay. So there's 3 things we want to do in the beginning of the phone call. All right. And it's very similar to what Nate said earlier on in this podcast. Okay. You want to show the customer that you're listening. You want to show them that you care. And you want to reassure them that they called the right place. You want to do that within the first 30 to 50 seconds of the call. If you can do this, if you can succeed in doing this in the first 30 seconds of that phone call, that customer will feel understood. They will feel cared about. They will feel reassured, which happens to be the 3 emotional needs they have when they call. You see, in the beginning, they need to be understood. In the beginning, when they talk to you, they need to feel that you care about their situation. And in the beginning, they need to feel like they've called the right place. They don't know that they've called the right place. Hopefully, you know. And they need to hear that from you. They need to hear that reassurance. You belong. They need to hear that. And the way that you do that is you simply show them that you're listening. In fact, I'm going to give you 3-word phrases. This is something super easy. Technician, just pull over for a quick second if you're still in your truck. If you're at home, grab a piece of paper. This is what you're going to take to your boss tomorrow. Okay. Very simple. Listen, show them that you're listening, make a dash, and then write the words, tell me more. Ever watch the movie Grease? How does that song go?
Brian, you sing it.
Come on, Nate, you know this. Please, bro. You were just tapping your finger to it before he even brought it up. Wait, actually, how it goes is actually pretty sketchy. I remember hearing, did she put up a fight? I'm
That's
like,
right.
Wait,
tell me more. Tell me more. And of course, they're asking, tell me more. All right. So
we're going down a dark road here.
So tell me more is a very good question. It's a very good question. Customer gets on the phone. They say, hey, I want a ballpark price. Cool. Tell me more about your situation. What's going on? All right. Hey, I just want to know what you charge to come out. Awesome. Tell me more about your situation. It really depends. And by the way, does it not depend? If it's something that they want to fix, there might be a dispatch fee involved. If it's something they want to replace, there's no fee there. So either way, I need to know more. I'm simply saying I don't have enough information to go off of. Tell me more what's going on. And as they begin to tell you more, crazy thing, you're rephrasing, you're restating, you're showing them that you're completely engaged in this conversation. So when they say, hey, I've got this air conditioner, it's blowing hot air. Oh my gosh, that's terrible. That's me caring. All right. So the next 3-word phrase, you're going to write care dash, that's not good. 3 words right there. So tell me more. That's not good. And then lastly, you're going to write yes. Okay. We want to focus in on what we can do, never what we cannot do. So write the word yes dash, I can help. 3 words. Very simple. Okay. Customer gets on the phone. These are the really hard calls to book, right? Customer gets on the phone. They say, I just want to talk to a technician. Awesome. We have a ton of those. Let me make sure I'm setting up the right one. Can you tell me more about your situation? What's going on? Well, I've got this air conditioner. It's blowing hot air. My gosh, it's terrible. How long has it been doing that? Oh, last couple of days. Well, look, we can totally help you. When would you like us out? Oh, this afternoon would be good. What just happened? Well, we booked the call. And the reason why we booked the call is because it's not logical. It doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to make sense. It's emotional. And our goal is to tap into their emotions and fulfill them. They want to feel understood. Fulfill that by asking, tell me more. They want to feel cared about. Fulfill that by saying, that's not good. When they share their plight, their situation, their angst, you agree with them that that is not a good situation. Or I can't imagine what you're going through right now. A simple expression of concern, a simple or a or a wow or a geez or a woof, something of that nature that shows them that you truly care about their situation. And then lastly, I can totally help you with that. You've called the right place. When would you like us out? Oh, this afternoon would be good. And you'll book it. You'll book it. You'll get up to 70, 75% just by using those 3-word phrases.
I love the simplicity of that, Brigham.
Yeah.
And it's not lost on me, the striking parallel of what you're saying there. Tell me more. That's not good. Yes, I can help. With exactly what the conversation is like in the home for a frontline person. Oh, yep. Brian, so it looks like I'm out here to take a look at a clogged drain. Can you tell me more about that? Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not good. That's definitely not how that's supposed to work. Yeah, so this is definitely something that I'm comfortable with helping you, and we'll make sure we'll get you fixed up right away. Like, it's so just there. It's so simple. It's so effective. That's, the conversation. And here's the great thing. If your CSRs are using a similar system to that, and your technicians are using the same type of system, you get that continuity where the homeowner feels like, man, these people are just, they want to know more. they want to understand, and they understand that this is not good, and then they want to help me. Like, this is great. You're getting the same experience on the phone as you do in the home, as you do on the phone, as you do in the home. Fantastic stuff. I love the simplicity of it.
Yes. First 30 seconds of the phone call, 30 to 50 seconds. And you guys are going to look like a hero. Just go into your boss, show it to him, write it out on the whiteboard, right? It's going to be awesome. Just do it.
All right. So, Brigham, you're saying that's obviously like a great framework to build around. At our call center, we use the concept of a skeleton, right? So like there's some elements of the call that are non-negotiables. You know, we have to do some value building. We have to probably quote a service call fee depending upon what type of call it is. You know, we have to grab a time frame, and there's some things that have to come up on the call. And then, at least in our particular case, we allow for some personality and flexibility with how you flesh out the skeleton, if you will. So if somebody's in that, you know, oh man, this is great. We're going to crush this thing. And they're like, cool, we're up to like that 70-75%. What are some of the finer components that maybe help us get even a little bit farther engaged with the homeowner, a little bit more confident, a little bit more competent when it comes to getting into the 80s and 90s?
Yeah. So the things that might hold you up or trip you up after that are, it's going to be the price, it's going to be the dispatch fee, or it's going to be a scheduling issue. In other words, they want you yesterday and you can't get to them yesterday because you don't have a Mandalorian, can't go back in time, right? So scheduling and price. So let's focus on price first. When somebody gets on the phone and they're asking about a price, whether it's, hey, what do you charge to come out? Or, hey, I just want a ballpark price. In both those cases, what they're really saying is I don't know the difference between you and the next guy aside from your price. So the CSR needs to create value on that call to the point where they recognize it before you even mention the dispatch fee. So you go through, you say, tell me more. That's not good. I can help. When would you like us out? And they go, you know what? This afternoon would be good. But before I have anybody come out, I really want to know what you guys charge. At which point we build value first. We simply say, that's a great question. What we do is we'll send out the technician. He'll come out. He'll take a look at the situation. He'll determine exactly what you need, and he'll give you a price before he starts. Now, there is a fee of extra to come out and do that. Now, if you don't like the word fee, that's fine. Some people do and some people don't. You simply say, there's a dispatch of extra, and we come out and do that. Right? You don't have to say fee, you can say dispatch or what have you. And then you simply end with, when would you like us out? Now, if they already said this afternoon would be good, you'll simply say, okay, so this afternoon looks good for you. I've got an opening on between 2 and 4. Does that work? Yep, that works. So you close it. As soon as you build value, you give the answer that he asked for or she asked for, and then you ask a question of your own, which should be a scheduling question. So that's how you'd go about booking that type of call. As for scheduling, if they want you out today and you cannot come out today, or at least your schedule says you can't come out today, the last thing you should do is say, oh, sorry, there's no way. There's no way we're going to get out to you. Oh, no, don't do that. Okay. So what do? You focus in on what you can do. There are going to be 2 ways to get out today, even though you're booked solid today. Those 2 ways are if a customer calls in to reschedule. Side note, they never cancel. Can you imagine calling a customer and saying, hey, we just had a bunch of cancellations. Do you want to work with us? That's not a good idea. Don't do that, right? So instead, you simply say, hey, Mr. Jones, we had somebody reschedule, just like at a dentist's office, right? So you could be booked solid. However, if somebody calls in reschedule or a technician gets done early in your area, you now have an opening. So that's what you can do. You need to tell them what you can do. So here's how you do it. I want you to come out today. You know that your schedule's full. Awesome. Let me get your contact information and we'll look at the schedule together. Did I say I could come out right now? Nope. I said, let me get your contact information. We'll look at the schedule together. If I can meet their expectation, I'm going to book it. If I cannot meet their expectation, I'm going to urgency list it. Mr. Jones, what I'd like to do is get you on today's urgency list. Now, the urgency list gives you faster service. As soon as a customer calls in reschedule or a technician gets done early in your area, I'm going to move you into that slot. Now, in order to get you on the urgency list, I do need to get you in the schedule. I have an opening on Tuesday between 2 and 4. Can I book that appointment in order to get you on today's urgency list? And we'll call you as soon as the technician is on his way.
So good.
Okay, so now we've got 10 people on the urgency list, right? And 5 we're able to get to. Now, those guys that we're able to get to, how do you think they're feeling about us when we call them, letting them know that there's a technician on his way?
Rescued.
Oh, yeah. And that's the whole point. You see, we're doing them a favor. We're getting them out today. And chances are they've called a few companies and realized nobody's getting out to them today. Except for us, we made it work, right? And we made it work for those guys. And now some people listening to this are going, wait a minute, what about those other 5? We call those individuals at the end of each day. Say, Mr. Jones, we've had you on today's urgency list. We've got 10 technicians in the field, some of which are work. How late do they work when it's really busy? All hours of the night. right? Our technicians are working all hours of the night. And here's the key. We're getting to as many families, not customers. We're getting to as many families as we possibly can. I'm going to put you on tomorrow's urgency list. As soon as a customer calls in to reschedule, technician gets done in your area, I'm moving that slot. As a worst case scenario, I've got you on the schedule. It's a guaranteed appointment on Tuesday between 2 and 4. We will call you as soon as the technician is on his way.
Mm-hmm.
And we are rolling. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's scheduling, whether it's value, if it's, or whether it's price, if it's price, they're really saying, I need to know the difference between you and the next guys aside from your price. That's what they need is value. Okay. So when they ask for price, they really mean value. When it's scheduling, you've got to give them the urgency list and tell them how that works. Tell them what you can do, never what you cannot do. And some people may not be receptive to the urgency list. You simply say, hey, I'm with you. I understand. Here's the thing. The last thing I want is for you to call 5 different companies and find out that they're busy. Because when we're busy, chances are so is everybody else because we have more technicians than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So let us be your backup plan. If you find somebody sooner, awesome. Call us back. Let us know. And when they call back, crazy thing. I was just about to call you. We've got an opening right here. And we're rolling.
Yeah, great stuff, Brigham. And this is definitely the way. And let me kind of take you back to the future here. So, everything that you're doing on the front end of this call is setting you up for success. And like, I'm sure if the technicians are listening to this, by the way, if you love this episode and you want your call takers to do better, share this with them, send it to your dispatchers, send it to your CSR, send it to your CSR manager, your customer service team, or whatever it is. Let them know this is good stuff. But, the old phrase is what starts well usually ends well, Stephen Covey, right? So what you're talking about here in Back to the Future is like, if you're having a good situation in the home, meaning the future, and you go back and you look at what happened to set up the success, it's incumbent upon what the CSR did over the phone. That is so critical to success in the home if the call is properly set up on the front end. Did you identify if everybody's who needs to be there is going to be in the home? Did you make sure the time was quoted correctly? Did the customer understand there was going to be a fee, wasn't going to be a fee, et cetera, et cetera? And like all of that sets the technician up for a way better experience, plus that continuity with a simple system like, yes, I can help you. And, wow, that's not good. All those types of things make it really easy. But there's another tool that you are definitely training on and working with teams to develop their approach to. And this is specific to retention. It's about the agreement concept,
yes,
right?
I'm so glad you brought that up.
Looking at what is driving not only a great experience one time, but a great experience multiple times so that you're locking that client in. And if you're listening to this and you're a frontline person and you're driving your truck right now, I mean, I'm sure you've gone through some slow times. Maybe even right now you're going through a slow time. Who knows? Wouldn't it be great if you had a book of customers that you could call at any point in time and say, hey, you're already paying for this service. Why don't we come out and do this for you? So, Brigham, this is something that has come up in our social media channels. There's a fair amount of interest in learning more about how to sell an agreement. We've done episodes about how to sell agreements on the phone with CSRs. I think it'd be an interesting spin if we kind of create some awareness about what that looks like for the technician in the home. And I don't want to get in front of it, and I don't know if you actually do that training or not. I'm sure you can eloquently speak to it. But like just generally set up the concept of what an agreement is, what the value is, and how we should go about making those presentations to homeowners.
Okay. So first of all, if it's up to me and it's my heating and cooling company, I'm going to train the CSR to be part of the selling process. Hopefully you've been able to see in the setup here that my goal is to give them the training and accountability needed for them to be an active part of the selling process. So what does that mean? Well, my goal is to get them to the point where at the end of the phone call, they can simply say, Mr. Jones, I'm looking at your notes and I notice you don't have a membership with us. I'm wondering why not. Now, let's say that you've got 30 phone calls that are coming in, okay? And on those 30 phone calls, let's say that you ask that question on every one of those calls. Why? Because it's a numbers game. So let's say 20 out of the 30 say, I'm good. What you do in that situation, you simply say, awesome, no big deal. If you change your mind, be sure to ask your technician about it and you tee up your tech, okay? What that means, though, is that there are 10 out of the 30 that say, well, what is it? And there we have the opportunity to say, hey, it's awesome. We come out in the spring, we come out in the fall. We make sure it's running at peak efficiency. The best part about it is it prevents things like this, the thing that you're dealing with right now, from happening. Now, it's pretty simple. We do it by the month. It's $29 a month. I can get you going right now. That's it. Now, let's conservatively say that 2 out of the 10 say yes. Okay. So those two, let's say that we pay them $10 a club membership. Okay. I've heard some people say 10. I've heard others say 20. I heard one the other day, you guys, no joke, $40 per club membership. I'm not going to name the company because I know that every CSR listening to this is going to leave. They're going to vacate the premises. But let's just do the math real quick here. You ready, Nate? The math?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
So you sell 2 a day as a CSR.
Yep.
Okay. This is great. I don't know why I've got balloons coming up. For those of you watching on YouTube, you now know what that means. But so 2 a day, you sell 2 a day. That means you make how much at $10 a pop a day?
$20.
$20. Yeah. Times 5, same math.
$100.
Yeah. 5 days in a week. Now we know we've also talked about 50 weeks in a year as opposed to 52. What's our total?
$5K.
$5,000 a year. When you show a CSR that they can make an extra $5,000 a year, what do you think they're saying?
Sign me up.
Yeah. Those listening on this podcast are saying, sign me up. And this is how you do it. It is a numbers game. The best time to sell a service agreement is over the phone. Why? Because that's when they're feeling the emotional angst. They feel surprised. They feel frustrated. Their system's not working the way that it should. It always works the way it should. Nobody told me I had to switch out filters, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're surprised. They're frustrated. It is the best time to sell a service agreement. Best time. Okay. So our goal is to get the CSRs to do that. And you guys, if we can get CSRs to do that, it is a gateway drug to all the other sales they can make over the phone. Here's what I mean by that. As opposed to them reading their favorite novel when calls aren't coming in, they're proactively calling out. Why? Because you gave them a taste of what's possible by teaching them how to sell a service agreement on an inbound call. They get that taste. They see that extra money in their paycheck. They realize, wow, I can control my own income. This isn't just a job for me anymore. It's actually a career. You see, you've made them self-reliant.
Mm-hmm.
You've given them the ability to make more money in the seat they're currently in. They don't have to go to collections. They don't have to go to accounting. They don't have to go out in the field. They don't have to go somewhere else inside the organization, or even worse, leave the company. They can stay right there and make as much money as they want to make. You guys, we pay for tech set leads all the time. A tech books a comfort advisor lead. The tech gets paid for that. CSR can do the same thing. And Mr. Jones, I'm looking at your notes. I noticed that you've had us out a few times over the last few years. You've got a system that's 12 years old. Have you ever considered replacing it? You've gotten some great life out of it. Just ask the question. If they say no big deal. Hey, if you change your mind, talk to your technician about it. Simple. But if you book that appointment, would you guys not pay them for booking that appointment?
Yeah, man.
Making it as a replacement call out of a service call.
Absolutely. And like when you start factoring in the cost of marketing, like it's super cheap.
Yeah. Let's say that you do plumbing and heating and cooling. They call in 3 times for heating and cooling, but never once for plumbing. Mr. Jones, I'm looking at your notes. I noticed that you've never used this for plumbing, only for heating and cooling. What's going on there? Do you think we don't know what we're doing with plumbing? Oh, of course not. I'm sure you guys know what you're doing. Oh, okay, cool. What you got going on? Got any plumbing needs that you might have going on in your house, whether it's a leaky faucet or a toilet's not flushing properly? Maybe it's your shower, the water's coming up to your ankles. You don't have to put up with that. Oh my gosh, that happens all the time. Well, we could totally help you with that. And make sure you book the plumbing appointment at a different time. You don't want to overwhelm the customer with a bunch of technicians in their home. Yep. But book them at 2 different times. And would we not compensate them for that?
Of course.
Of course we would. Make them a part of the selling process, and they'll stay longer because they have self-reliance now. They're making more money. Now, let's get to the technician. Okay, any other questions on club memberships over the phone?
I love it,
okay.
Man. That's exactly how it should be approached.
Okay, so let me quickly go through the technician. Okay, the technician now is set up for success. Okay, the CSR has already planted seeds about our club membership, about the other services that we provide, and we're the only technician coming out. And most of the time when I ask a company, hey, if you're the only one going out, what are the chances you're making something happen inside that home?
Pretty good.
Every one of them are like, I'm going to go close something. Yeah, exactly. Because there's something going on. We're not going to sell anything they don't need. In fact, we're not going to sell it all. Funny thing, my experience has been with technicians, the minute I say sales is the minute they close their ears and they go, la, 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 I don't want to be in sales. Okay, great. I just don't use the word anymore. I've given up on it. I've given up trying to sell them on the word
Tell
sales.
that to Brian.
I just push that aside.
Well, this is a different, I don't mind I'm just done with it. I'm giving up. It's the
hey, we don't do that at all. All we do is educate and serve. It's like, okay,
All right,
so I
so
hear
here's what I
a
do.
whole lot of sales training not coming out of this guy.
So here's what we're doing. Okay, what we do is we talk about soft skills and we talk about phenomenal customer experience. All right, so I simply say, here's my belief. A technician may not be comfortable selling, but they do want to do a good job. Cool. So all we need to do is show them what a good job looks like. Guys, here's what a good job looks like. Inside that front door, do not beeline it to the box. I know that's where your comfort zone is. I know that's where it's safe, but you're not supposed to be safe. Our goal is to help the customer feel safe. Our goal is to help them feel comfortable. Okay. Our goal is for them to have a little bit of fun. Okay. I asked the technicians, you guys, how do you get kissed on a date? It's a funny thing. It doesn't matter how early it is in the morning. They don't need their coffee anymore. They're all sitting up in their chair because they're about to learn something cool. And even if they're married, you and I both know they haven't been kissed in weeks. Right? So simply say, and some technicians are like, what are you talking about? I kissed my wife last night. Good. How do you do it? You create an environment of safety, because guess what? If they don't feel safe, you're not going to get kissed. An environment where they feel comfortable. You got to feel comfortable, guys. You're not getting kissed. And you got to have just a little bit of fun. Inside that environment, you have a very good chance of getting kissed. Now, this is where a smart alecky technician pipes up and says, wait a minute, you want us to kiss our customers? Well, no, I don't want you to kiss your customers, but I do want you to create an environment of safety, comfort, and fun. And the best way to do that is right inside the front door. Okay. And it's just like Nate said, you're creating that environment of safety, comfort, and fun by listening, by caring, and reassuring. But you do it over and over and over again. You get them talking. You get them talking about whatever's going on. There's one time I walked into a house with the tech and they're watching Finding Dory, it's part 2 of the Finding Nemo movie. Okay, so we're watching
we got to eat kids between the two of us, bro. We know.
Yeah. Okay, so he's sitting there and his kids are watching that movie and I'm like, dude, I love that movie. Genuinely, I'm not lying. It's not a trick. I genuinely love the movie. Okay, you've got to be sincere. And he goes, oh yeah, man, me too. There's such a great message. We started talking about the message of Finding Dory. And the next thing I know, he says, hey, I got to show you something. Follow me. What just happened? I earned the tour. You see, our goal, guys, is not just to go out and fix the thing that we were called out to do. Our goal is to earn the tour and talk about everything that's going on. Okay, as they take us through that tour. The minute a customer turns their back to you and says, follow me, you're in, bro. You're in. So the technician, he was frozen there. He was like, dude, what do you mean follow you? I'm supposed to go to the box right now. And I'm like, bro, we earned the tour. I kind of motioned to him to move forward and follow the owner. So we're following the owner. We're going to different parts of the house. He's showing us like this. He had just bought the house. And there was like some surround sound. And he's like, yeah, let me show you how this works. And on the way, I noticed on the coffee table an inhaler. Hey, I noticed that there's an inhaler. Yeah, my son, he's got asthma. Wow, that's not good. And you might pass by like an indoor air cleaner that's just for the room. You know, the ones that you get at Costco.
Mm-hmm.
And you might pass by a room that's full of stuff. And they call it the storage area because it's either too hot or too cold during certain times of the year. So they don't even go in there at all. And all of a sudden things start coming up. And if you do plumbing as well, you're going to notice things with plumbing too. And crazy thing, there's a whole lot more to talk about than just the thing you're called out to do. And is that selling? No, it's phenomenal customer service. I mean, imagine a customer that has to call you 6 different times for you to come out and fix each individual thing. That's just bad customer service. Okay. Let me give you one more example. When I was gone working with a company, my wife called me and she said, hey, we have some guests over at the house and their stuff is locked in the guest bedroom. I said, what do you mean locked in the guest bedroom? We don't have a lock on that door. Yeah, but we can't open the door. Oh, well, have you tried calling a locksmith? And she's like, oh, I thought that was only for car doors. I was like, no, they're a locksmith. They undo doors and they get through them. And so locksmith comes over, ends up replacing the doorknob and then leaves. Well, you guys, we have 12 different doors with the same doorknob.
All right.
So it is phenomenal customer service that we're after. It's about going home and feeling good about the job that you did. And so when you get curious about what's going on inside the customer's home, and you provide options based on that curiosity, and you simply get them to yes or no. Did I say anything about selling? Nope. I simply said, get curious, provide options, and get to yes or no. Don't assume what the customer wants, okay? Because even though you are a customer, you are not your customer. Just give them all the options. Let them decide which one they want. Get them to yes or no, and that's it. That's your job. That's what a good job looks like. You do those things: safety, comfort, fun, earn the tour. You get a little curious about what's going on inside the customer's home, provide options, get to yes or no. That's what a good job looks like.
And it is such a good job and a great way of presenting it, Brigham. And sometimes, the technicians I've heard or assume that some of them get a little nervous about making a presentation around a club membership or an agreement or something like that because they've invested all this time with the sale at hand, right? We'll call it the job that they're looking for. They presented these beautiful options. Now, I'm going to assume that maybe one of your solutions would be to present the options with the agreement built into it. That's fantastic. Let's just say by chance they forgot to put it in there, or they're not used to presenting it that way. And like, well, now how am I supposed to bring this thing up on the back end? I feel like if I say one more thing, Brian's going to feel like I'm nickel and diamond. Oh yeah, but wait, there's more, and well, come on, man. We just spent all this time trying to build up this relationship so that we could present this $3,500 package. And now I'm going to ask him about this agreement. I've heard other technicians where, depending on how they get paid, they might take a hit on things if they offer an agreement and the price goes down. Are you undervaluing the agreement? Are you using it as a discount tool? So kind of get us in the mindset of technician. How do we overcome some of these stops or these concerns when it comes to making that in-home presentation with a membership?
What I personally like to do, and you guys may disagree, but what I personally like to do is make it part of the proposal. The last thing you should do is, what do you call it? I like to call it tattletelling. You find one thing, you go back to the customer and say, hey, look at this. And then you go and you're dinking around with something else. And you go back to the customer, hey, look at this. Don't do that. Don't do that. Find everything that's going on. Right now, if they're with you the entire time, great. You can show them as you discover it because they're right there and they're talking with you the whole time. But if they choose to leave and go do their own thing for a minute, discover everything. Discover everything, put the proposal together, have the membership inside of it. Why? The easiest way to do it is just assume that they're doing it. And why wouldn't they do it? Look, if you're not selling a membership, it's because you don't believe in it. And why don't you believe in it? That's something we need to overcome together. Okay? I realize that there are certain times of the year where it's ideal to do a tune-up. Okay? I get it. And I also understand there are times where it's not ideal to do a tune-up. But here's the thing. If we're going out there and we decide it's not an ideal time, how does that benefit the customer? What do you guys think?
There's no benefit to the customer.
Yeah.
Because what are you going to do out there? You're going to do what should be say 45 to 90 minute job, and you're going to do it in 18 minutes. And I loved what you said about the club membership. If you're not presenting them to the client, it's because you don't believe in them. And the way to flip that, to really let it sink in, is if you believed this club membership was the best thing your client could possibly do with $19 a month.
That's right.
Would anything be able to stop you from talking about it?
And everything else that goes on inside the customer's home. Think about that for just a moment. Any opportunity you have to go inside the customer's home and see what they have, what they're just putting up with. Okay? Let me give you one example. I've got a workout room here. It needs a mirror on the back. Okay? I've been wanting a mirror in my workout room for a year and a half. There's a problem though. There's an outlet on that wall. I actually have to call an electrician and get the outlet moved before I could put the mirror on there. Haven't done it. I just live without a mirror. Now, in the back of your head, you're going, dude, this sounds like a first world problem. Yeah, there's a lot of them here in America. Okay? People put up with them every day. Okay? They put
Our
up with them.
businesses would be a lot smaller if we weren't dealing with first world problems.
Exactly. But you guys, they put up with them. Water coming up to your ankles during a shower, it happens all the time, and they put up with it for years. And they keep throwing Drano down the drain thinking that that's going to work. And we all know that you should never use Drano. And yet they still buy it at Home Depot. They don't know that. And they're ruining their stuff because we're not there. We don't have a reason to be there on a regular basis. In our heads, we think we don't have a reason to be there. That's wrong. That's wrong because there's always something. And if you can just get in that home where they feel safe, they feel comfortable, they're having a little bit of fun, you can earn that tour and figure out what's going on and fix it. And fix it. That's the objective. Why do we have club memberships? So that we can be there on a regular basis and take care of their needs. And if we stop going, you guys, we're going to lose that business. When they have a problem that they didn't realize we could fix, they call somebody else. That's what the club membership is for. Don't worry about the timing of the year. Don't worry about when it's good or a good time or a bad time. Just go, because chances are there's always something you can take care of. And if you're always in front of them, they'll always call you, or at least they'll have a better chance of calling you because you are top of mind. Just do it. Make it part of your proposal. Make them take it out.
It's funny that you brought up the receptacle on the wall, because we actually had an electrician. His name is Ryan Smith. He asked in the Waste No Day Facebook group, what is the best episode for learning how to sell a membership for an electrician? Well, we didn't have an actual electrician membership selling episode, but I think this is a great time to kind of wrap up our conversation today with presenting this concept as an electrician. So, let's just say that Brian is the guy, who called you out. Maybe he has the receptacle on the wall, or maybe he called you out because of something else. It doesn't really matter, but I want to hear the role play where you're actually molding in the membership into the options that you're creating. And here, if we're being real here, Brigham, like when it comes to memberships, I think HVAC, certainly gets the big pizzazz. Lots of people understand, you got to maintain your system. The HVAC industry has really driven home the concept of making sure you maintain your system, the filters, the change outs, the all the stuff that goes with it. So definitely great homeowner recognition. At least the majority of the homeowner recognition when it comes to agreements in the home is around that one. A little less so on the plumbing, although I think that's making some ground when it comes to, flushing your water heater and checking your lines and even drain maintenance and all these types of things that can be built into that. I think there's some good awareness up and coming there. When it comes to electrical, I know there's a lot of head trash out there about what would I even offer in electrical maintenance? Like, what is the value to a homeowner? Like, why should they be convinced to do this? And I'm not asking for you to build an electrical maintenance plan for us here live on the air.
Why not?
But can I tell a story? I can tell a story that's right.
We'd love to hear that. But at the end of it, like what I want is, how are we going to make this presentation to Brian, whether you build it into the options or don't, in such a way that it's an easy yes for him, that it makes sense for him. So let's hear your story and then set that up for kind of our conclusion.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's an opportunity for us to work with the customer on a regular basis. Nothing worse than a whole house electrical failure. And there's always something going out when it comes to electricity. Let me give you one example. Okay. So we go into this house. I was with a new technician. And of course, new technicians notoriously go out to the homes where the system has just been installed or the water heater's just been installed, right? You're getting their feet wet. And so they go on all these newer jobs, or the jobs where, in his mind, these are his words. Everything's been done, Brigham. I don't even know why you're going with me on this right along. Everything's been done. There's a new system there. It's only 3 months old. The water heater was replaced 6 months ago. There's nothing to do in this home whatsoever. Those are his exact words when we went in the home. We're like, cool, sounds good. So we go into the home and we're looking at everything. Sure enough, that system is brand spanking new. The furnace is beautiful. The water heater is still shining. It's still got the stickers on it. And he's like, see, I told you, there's nothing we can do in this home. And all of a sudden I look up on the ceiling and I see a smoke detector hanging from the wire. And I go, hey, look at that. He's like, oh, I can fix that. And he goes to reach over and fix it. I'm like, what are you doing? You don't have permission to touch that. I took a picture of it. I said, look, let's put it together with everything else that we find. And when we're done with all of our findings, we'll go up. We'll show the customer what we got going on. Okay. All right, cool. Let's do it. So we go through the rest of it, tune everything up, make sure it's running the way that it should, go through the process. We go upstairs to the point where we start talking about everything that we've noticed. And then I bring up the picture with a smoke detector hanging from the wire. Did you know that you've got a smoke detector hanging from the wire in your basement? Yes. And she looked a little embarrassed by it. And I said, well, what's going on? She said, well, if you'll notice, all the smoke detectors are hanging from the wire. And sure enough, she points around the house and I can see all the smoke detectors hanging from the wire. And I'm going, ma'am, you can't go without smoke detectors. What's going on? And she said, well, when I get on the ladder, I can reach to undo it. but I can't straighten out my elbows enough to put it back on. I said, oh my gosh, how long has it been this way? She said, 6 months. Oh my gosh. You've got to be kidding me.
That's not good.
No, it's not good. Not a good. Perfect. Thank you, Nate. Okay. That's not a good situation. We can totally help you with that. I said, look, we can change out the batteries. We can test them ourselves. Don't worry about a thing. Would you like us to do that while we're here? Yes, that would be great. So we went through, we changed out the batteries. We put everything in there. We tested it out and it wasn't working. So what did we do? We started talking about our membership program for electricians, right? We have our team of electricians that can come out, check all the outlets, check out the power, and just make sure that everything's running the way it should. It's not just about a one-time thing because you're constantly using electricity. You want to make sure that you have somebody here on a regular basis to check everything and make sure that it's running the way that it should.
Yeah, I get that, gentlemen, and that's great and all, but why can't I just have one of the electricians come out and just check this out real quick? I don't need to pay a monthly fee to do that, right?
And you certainly don't need to, but it would be a matter of getting the electrician out and he can talk to you more about it. And what I would do is I'd pass it over to the electrician at that point.
Okay. All right. Hey, welcome in. Two guys named Brigham in the same day. That's funny. Brigham the electrician. Good to meet you.
So here's my intention is to create such an amazing environment where they feel safe, they feel comfortable having fun, where we just assume it. And basically what you're saying is, do you want me back? Okay. My goal is to get to the point where you like me so much that you have no problem with me coming back. There's something about the warm and fuzzy feeling you get when somebody has just provided a service to you. What did I do? I switched out all the batteries, I put the smoke detector back in, I charged it up. It is a very easy time for me to simply say, hey, you don't have to put up with this ever. We can come back on a regular basis and do it. But yes, if we're switching it from an old lady to a guy that is worried about his pennies, right? Who feels like he just wants to fix this now, you've got to handle it a completely different way. You've got to create the environment for him based on safety, comfort, and fun.
Yeah, let's take it a little bit farther, Brigham. So like not only do you identify, okay, so like you're the electrician now, and you identify, okay, yeah, obviously these are hanging from the wires, but these are actually 15 years old. Like these are past the replacement lifespan of smoke detector, right?
So what we ended up doing is replacing the smoke detectors, yes.
So I want you to present to Brian, and you can call it like smoke detector package 1, 2, 3. We don't need to get into the details, but I want to hear how you're integrating the membership into the presentation.
Yeah. So Brian, you got these smoke detectors that are pretty old. I certainly would love to come on a more regular basis to prevent things like this from happening. We have a membership. It's awesome. We come out in the spring, we come out in the fall. With electricity, is it usually once a year or twice a year? Depends, right? Depends on the company. So we come out once a year. We make sure that everything's working the way it should. Last thing I want you to do would be without electricity or to have situations like this. So if I can come on a regular basis, if you're using it, chances are it's going to wear out. So chances are sooner or later, you're going to have another problem with something else when it comes to your electricity. So if I can get you on that membership, that'd be great. It's just $19 a month. I can get you going on it right now.
What all does that consist of?
Then we'll go through the list, right? I wish I had a list in front of me, you guys. I'd go through the list of all the things that we do from an electrical standpoint.
Yeah.
I'd show them the brochure and explain how it works.
Yeah. Well, let's chop it up real quick. You got a few minutes? I know we're over on your time, so we good? Let's come up with a few things. So what do we want done? If I'm having an electrician to my home, like what things do I want to know are good to go? Now, it's probably not fair in my case because I've overseen an electrical company where we got sent out to things that caused electrical fires. And we even had a couple houses burned down while Nate and I were working together in Lancaster that our electricians got called out to that started with electrical issues. So for me, I'm like, I want the covers pulled off my outlets. I want the covers pulled off my switches. I want you putting a flashlight in there and taking a look at these things, maybe cleaning the dust out of that stuff. I want the panel cover taken off and you at least just having a guy who knows what he's doing and knows what this stuff is supposed to look like to pull these little covers off in my daughter's rooms and take a look and just go, everything looks great. Like that alone is so worth a few dollars a month to me. I can't even put it into words. But then you get into the other stuff, like this is a great opportunity to get a, say, free estimate on anything you might want to have done electrically speaking. Jamie Mellinger, one of the electricians Nate works with, good friend of mine, would say things like at the end of every call, he would just go, and this is a great thing to add to why you should have a maintenance plan. He would go, is there anything, including even lighting, is there anything about the home that you wish was a little bit better in terms of the electrical system? Any room that's not light enough, any room that's too bright, anything you'd like dimmed? We've talked many times about, are your kids like mine, where you'll come home from work, everybody left 9 hours ago, and you look up on the second floor and you've got 4 lights on and nobody's been home for 9 hours. Do you wish there was something you could do about that? It's not all the money in the world, but imagine if they walk out of the room and 5 minutes later, the lights just shut themselves off, So all these things, and just having the opportunity to go back over this stuff once a year, to me, is invaluable. And I know enough about electrical to probably do these things myself, but I don't want to. But our
Brian's
guys
actually,
don't.
he's a better electrician than a plumber is, surprisingly.
Yeah, well, obviously. I mean, it takes so much less. All right, last electrician joke. That's it. Just
I was just going to say, Brian, you're totally right. I've got dimmers in my house that flicker, and the flickering really bothers me. Once again, I've never fixed it. Never fixed it. So with a maintenance program, you'd be able to fix that.
But let me ask you, if an electrician was out this morning and just on the maintenance program, or he just came out because you had one of these horrible arc fault breakers that trips because somebody sneezes a half mile away, and he came out and swapped it out for you, and he said, hey, is there anything about your electrical system, lighting, ceiling fan, anything that gives you the slightest bit of trouble, or that you wish worked a little bit better, or any rooms too bright, any rooms too dark? Would you bring that up?
Yeah, I've got a cold tub. I'll tell you right now, Brian, I've got a cold tub that I like to keep at 39 degrees. And sometimes in the summertime, it's really hard. It works really, really hard to get down to 39 degrees. Here in St. George, it's 105 in the summertime. It's hot. It's not as hot as Phoenix, but it's super, super hot. And it's hard to stay.
Sounds amazing. Sounds like spring.
And it flips the breaker very easily, and it freaking bothers me. I really wish I could get that fixed. True story.
Let me take a look for you while we're here.
Right. And so I think there's the concept that it could really be foundationally built upon. So, hey, Brian, obviously, we got to get today's smoke detectors taken care of. This is a primary warning device for your family. As part of getting the smoke detectors addressed today, we're going to be including in the price, a membership for our annual electrical safety inspection and club. And what this does is not only gives you some benefit on today's repairs, and we can factor in some of those things, but additionally, what this will do is allow me to touch base with you as a service provider on an annual basis. Now, why do you need an electrician in your home on an annual basis? You might say, hey, it's been a while maybe I've never had an electrician out. That's okay. Let's talk about some things in your home that might be inconveniencing you right now, or that are kind of bothering that you never actually address. Wouldn't it be great if you knew every single year that there was going to be an electrician coming around and you could handle some of those minor inconveniences or major inconveniences that have come up in your life or your home or your family's experience? I think there's some value there. And in addition to that, Brian, if you're like me, things are always changing at your home. You might get one of those cool new cold tubs. You might put a hot tub out in the backyard. You might want to throw some of those, Edison lights out on the front porch. You might want to get some outdoor lighting. You might want to do some of the Christmas lighting in a new area of the house, etc. Life is constantly changing. I think there's always an opportunity for how could we make our home more what we want it to be. And what this club membership allows us to do is for me to basically evolve with you. And so if your family's evolving, if your needs for the home is evolving, I get to check in with you on a regular basis. I assumed you liked your experience today. And this could be a great relationship for us moving forward. If that makes sense for you, not only is it included in the price of today's repairs for the smoke detectors, but whatever, the offer from there, right? So I think there's some good concept there to build upon the evolution of the family and where things are going and where the home is progressing and how technology is changing. I mean, think about USB chargers, building the receptacles, think about new receptacles, like so many people wish they had a coffee maker in their bedroom, et cetera,
Yeah, don't just throw them out. Think about USB saying to a tech, hey, talk about USB receptacles is going to have a tech walk up to the client and say, how about USB receptacle? No, what you say to the client is Do you have any areas that you guys like to charge your phone, but you don't like how far the cord has to stick out, or you guys are tripping over it, or it's so far away from the nightstands on the bed?
Or you can never find one of those stupid plugs to actually put it into the receptacle,
Yeah. So that's the question you ask, and then you let the USB receptacle bring itself up.
Yes. And even better if while you're going through, let's call it tour, right? If you're going through and you're pointing those things out and they're saying, oh my gosh, yeah, I hate that. Or, yeah, you're totally right. This does happen when this happens. And it's that way, it's more natural. It's more relationship, less transactional. All great stuff. Love it.
Well, this is great stuff. And for Ryan, I hope that gave you a little bit of an idea of where to start and how to bring this into your presentation. Appreciate you listening, man, and asking that question in the group. And appreciate you, Brigham, bringing all this insight to not only the CSR world and valuing what they're doing for the business in the home services industry, but even how that translates into the home and the same concepts that can be employed. This has been great stuff, man. And as we like to do at the end of our episodes, if people are interested in learning more about you personally and some of the things you've been talking about, or more about Power Selling Pros, where's a great place to get connected with you?
Yeah. So best place is just to go to powersellingpros.com. It's POWERSELLINGPROS.com. On the front page of that website, there's a link to get a demo. If you want to learn more about what we do or how we do it, we coach CSRs one-on-one twice a month over the phone using their own phone calls. It's a bit of a university. It takes about a year and a half to complete. There's 4 levels of certification. But by the time we're done, we're guaranteed at least an 85% booking ratio and actively selling club memberships over the phone. So that's what we do. And if you want to learn more about that, just go to the website and click on a demo and schedule it.
That's such a unique and needed niche in the market. There's a lot of call centers out there, and a lot of them do not provide that service. And that's something that can really help carry you in the shoulder times if you're in this home services industry.
And let me say, I've said this before, I'll say it until somebody pulls the plug on this pirate ship of ours here. We can say things like this because we don't have sponsors. Stop trying to make your technicians and salespeople sell out your club memberships. We're not that great at it. I mean, we can get it done, but you have to think about the fact that we have so much bandwidth and so much energy in the day. And if you make club memberships the thing, I will spend 40 minutes as a competitive, self-respecting tech or salesperson trying to sell a club membership, and then have very little energy for my next call to spend 40 minutes trying to sell a tankless water heater and water treatment, or a heat pump with an electric filter and a UV light or whatever. We have the same amount of energy every day. How would you like us to spend it? If you can have someone on the phone when they have the most, your highest chance of converting that club membership before we get out there, if you can have them do it, save yourself the hassle of trying to hold your techs accountable, save the tech the hassle of feeling bad for not getting that thing converted, even though he or she sold an $18,000 job. Like, do yourself a favor, and be it start training yourself. I rarely recommend that because you're probably not a great CSR if you're the business owner or the manager. Get a hold of someone like Brigham and start getting your CSRs trained up. Give them the opportunity to make more money and watch what they do with it.
Yes. If you, in your heart of hearts, don't have the time to do it, the wherewithal to do it, absolutely call Power Selling Pros. Let's get your CSRs trained to book calls, wow customers, and move more memberships over the phone. So that, guess what? The technician can sell everything else. Everything else. Indoor air quality, just hot areas, cold areas, zoning products, mini splits, you name it. There's so much opportunity in the home, and it stinks when we get tripped up over membership.
Great place to wrap it up on there, Brigham. Thanks so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure talking with you and kind of understanding this key component of our business. Man, if we lived in a world where more calls were set up in a great way and more technicians received more calls because we were booking more calls, like, it would be a good thing. And so I think this is an area that all home services industries could be improving upon, regardless of what channel you're in. This is a great place to start. So Brigham, thanks for joining us today, man. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Hey, that's a wrap for this episode. Hope that you enjoyed the time with Brigham. What a great and simple way of breaking down not only the importance, but an effective method for your CSRs to be using in translating a homeowner need into a homeowner booking. And then using that same methodology to put that into the home and getting that continuity of service and experience from the phone to the tech at the door, making sure that we are taking care of the homeowner indeed. Love the simplicity of what he brought there in the tell me more, that's not good, yes, I can help concept, a really easy and simple way of remembering a simple structure to accomplish what you're looking for in the home. Hope that you enjoyed the whole concept there, the role play and everything else. Make sure that you check out Selling Power Pros. Good stuff that they got going on there, especially if you are looking to be booking more calls. It doesn't have to be because you're spending more marketing dollars. You can be maximizing the dollars that you're already spending and get more calls out of it. So great opportunity for those of you. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, if you love the episode or you have some CSRs that you think would love it, share it with them, share it with your dispatchers, share it with your call taking teams. That would be fantastic. And let them know why they should share it with others. We'd love to hear your feedback as well. So drop us a line, let us know what you thought about the episode, and then hit up Brigham and let him know as well. I'm sure he would appreciate it. We're going to leave you now with our weekly challenge, which continues to be the same: to choose to wake up each and every morning and waste no day.